Something I'm just realizing for myself is that, the lessons that we go through and the wisdom we attain and we apply to our everyday lives was meant specifically for us in order to grow into what's truly meant for us being one of one individuals. You know, I've definitely began to immerse myself more in what feels like my truth as opposed to the truth, because I believe that being in search of the way or the truth for life is coming from a place of, you know, an objective answer, but just from honest reflection, it feels like nothing is truly objective because humans can't agree on one thing for shit. You know, we can't agree on what's right or what's wrong or what's good or what's bad because everyone has their own opinion and everyone comes up differently in life. So for an example, right, Christianity is very big here in America, but it is definitely not big over in like Africa or like in India, you know what I mean? Everyone has their own beliefs. And for me, I'm perfectly fine with that. But at a certain point in time, I definitely was not in that mentality because I was believing that I needed to find the way to help everyone, but that comes from a place of control as opposed to genuine intention. You know what I mean? Because everyone is truly unique to themselves, but they may not know that because they believe that they have to go the route instead of just their route. You know what I mean? And you spend so much time, looking to find the way to achieve everything you want in life, but just because it worked in that way for them does not mean it's going to turn out that way for you. You know what I mean? I'll give you a genuine example, right? We'll use LeBron James. LeBron James was poor growing up and he worked really, really hard to become the basketball player that we all know now. And he was the first pick in the NBA draft. And he has a phenomenal career and a phenomenal life to show for it. But then there are other players who did not take that route and who ended up going different routes that they achieved success in their own way. Steph Curry. Steph Curry was not a highly touted prospect coming out of high school. He went to college, dominated, but was still under a lot of scrutiny for how he appeared, looking like he couldn't compete. And he worked hard and he took his route. And now he's arguably the greatest shooter we've ever seen in the NBA. Another example, we'll use Tom Brady. Tom Brady was one of the last picks in the draft, in the NFL draft, and bro has 7 rings. 7. So it's really just realizing that there is, at least for me, I'm realizing for myself that there is no the way for anything, but rather finding your way is the most important, no matter how complex and messy it gets, because trying to organize it into just this is who I am in this super straight arrow prevents one from truly immersing themselves in the many flows of life that they can, because if you're led to believe that there's only one way and that if you take another route you're wrong, then one can end up feeling like they're being controlled and that they can't be true to themselves because they're being led to believe that if they do things outside of the status quo of whatever it is that they've been told is right, then it just feels like more of a trap, than something that's enlightening. That's why when I'm talking, at this point, I make it very known that it's just my perspective and my way. And I'm not saying it's the way, because I understand that what works for me is not going to work for every single person out there. I paint my nails and I'm comfortable with that. I know for a fact there are people who aren't comfortable with that. I believe in turning the other cheek. I know a lot of people are probably not down for that because they think, nah, I got to get my get back, which if that's how you feel, that's totally fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that anyone is right or wrong for what they choose to do. I am here to be my true self and do what's right for me and flow with that and allow something beautiful to occur from that without putting too much expectation on outcomes and, limiting myself to, oh, these are my people and I can't fuck with these people, or no, I'm here to save everyone. I'm just more present and enjoying my own energy and enjoying my own space and walking my path and acting on what's right for me in those moments and doing what's right in each moment, no matter the circumstances, because listening to intuition and going by my own, by my own connection to God is how I see it, through my intuition and just that calm voice instead of the loud one. I'm able to make decisions that feel most right for my journey instead of trying to have a perfect journey with no error and, no problems and no struggles. But without pain and without struggle, there is no true growth. Shout out to all my gym goers. I know y'all can back that. But it's just definitely about, stand your ground and walk your path in each step in order to live your most genuine truths, plural. No matter how messy it gets, no matter how complex it may be, I believe it's better for myself, I believe it's better to just be as complex and as messy as humanly possible than to just be a straight arrow of perfection that just isn't as genuine as it appears. Something to think about. Oh my